Dear colleagues, guests, esteemed speakers, greetings to all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the 11th Youth Development Forum entitled From Crises to Resilience, Empowering the Youth for an Uncertain Future. My name is Ahmed Farooq Dikan, Manager for the Women and Youth Empowerment Division, and I will be your moderator today. As the Islamic Development Bank, we are delighted to host you in this platform to discuss challenges and opportunities around youth development. Without taking too much time, I would like to quickly introduce our speakers and then welcome our Director General to kick us off with his opening remarks. We are honored to have an excellent cohort of speakers from many regional and international development partners. We have with us Dr. Ruba Jaradat, who is the International Labour Organization Assistant Director General and Regional Director for Arab States, based at the regional office in Beirut. Mr. Thomas Kaye, who is the Senior Advisor on Global Solutions at Generation Unlimited. Ms. Mihoko Kumamoto, Director of the UN Institute for Training and Research, Division for Prosperity. Dr. Tamam Mango, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Crown Prince Foundation based in Jordan, who is also our partner in the Youth Leadership Project that we initiated recently. And Mr. Abdullah Al Yusuf, who is the co-founder and chief executive officer of the TAM Development Company based in Saudi Arabia. Without taking more time, I'm now pleased to invite Mr. Amir Bukvic, Director General of Global Practices and Partnerships at the Islamic Development Bank, to start us off with his opening remarks. Mr. Amir, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum, distinguished speakers, valuable youth of the ISDB member countries, dear colleagues and guests. On behalf of the entire Islamic Development Bank, it's my privilege and great pleasure to welcome you today to the 11th Youth Development Forum. The Youth Development Forum is a flagship annual standing event on the sideline of the ISDB Group annual meeting. Through this event, we bring together influential thinkers, policymakers, policy experts, development practitioners, and most importantly, youth from across our member countries to address, discuss, and debate critical issues of relevance to young women and men around the globe. Since we started this initiative in 2012, the Youth Development Forums have covered a variety of themes and explored pressing issues relevant to youth, including but not limited to youth employment, youth entrepreneurship, financial inclusion, as well as meaningful youth engagement, to mention a few. The very first Youth Development Forum took place in 2012 in Sudan, and in the following years, it traveled across a variety of ISDB member countries, including Tajikistan, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Mozambique, Tunisia, Morocco, and Uzbekistan. In 2017, we organized our first Youth Summit, through which youth delegates representing nearly all of our member countries shared recommendations on how to enhance the bank's intervention, supporting youth development and empowerment. The outcome of this important summit set the foundation for us to establish the Women and Youth Empowerment Division and develop our youth development strategy, guiding our work in supporting young women and men in our member countries through more focused and dedicated interventions. During today's discussions, we will hear from our esteemed speakers about their assessment of the situation in terms of the challenges faced by youth, while also exploring ideas and recommendations to address these challenges and turn them into opportunities. The event will also provide time for the youth among us in the audience to express their ideas, concerns, and solutions that we should take note of for a better future for all. I'm also pleased to announce that our team, together with the ILO, will provide some information about our second challenge call on greener skilling for post-crisis situations. This will be in continuation our successful collaboration with ILO, which began last year with the first challenge call on Youth Green Skills Accelerator, which promoted youth participation in a just transition by recognizing and assisting the realization of their ideas through funding and technical capacity development. This will happen in the later part of today's program. With these introductory thoughts, once again, I welcome our distinguished panelists and participants to our Youth Development Forum and wish you fruitful discussions. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Your mic is
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. My apologies. Thank you very much for the opening remarks and for setting the stage, Mr. Amir Bukvich. And now we would like to, of course, dive into our panel discussion. And I would like to start with our first speaker, Dr. Ruba Jaradat from the International Labour Organization. Dr. Ruba, as you very well know, one of the most pressing challenges that young people face is unemployment, even if they're skilled and educated. And so what would you share with us in terms of ILO's assessment of this important subject when it comes to young people's unemployment, or when it comes to their lack of access to entrepreneurship, etc. And also from a global perspective, if you would like to share with us any other assessments on the subject. Thank you so much.
Well, first of all, thank you, Ahmed, and I'm very pleased that this opportunity to be on a panel with the distinguished guests, and I look forward to seeing you in person next week, inshallah, during the your annual meetings in Jeddah.
With pleasure.
You pointed out to the key problem for youth in the region, which is unemployment. But also there are other very important challenges that contribute to the issue of the challenge of unemployment, which is the low growth, the high inequality, the high informality. It all contribute to the bad situation of the youth in our region and globally. And also the socioeconomic crisis that exist in many parts of this region, they have exacerbated the challenge. So in terms of the situation of the youth in the labor market, our estimates show that we have 146 million people, 34% of the region population are between the ages of 15 and 34, which is very young people in the Arab region. And those young, they are not realizing their full potential. The unemployment rates in the MENA, they continue to be the highest in the world, and that is over I think over the previous 3 decades now. If we look at young people between the ages of 15 and 24, the unemployment is reaching around 28% in 2020 compared to the global rate of 15%. And if we dig into some details, for young men, the estimate is 11% who are neither in education or employment. For young women, it's even worse. The rate is estimated that only 10% are actually in the workforce, compared to the global estimate of 31%. And around or about 78% of the youth in the Arab region, they work in the informal sector with very limited access social insurance, to health insurance, or credit facilities, which is a very important issue that limits their any potential for employment. Thank you. I stop here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ruba, for sharing with us the assessment of the Arab region when it comes to youth unemployment. To continue setting the stage, I think at a high level, I would like to now move on to Ms. Mihoko Kumamoto from the United Nations Institute for Training and Research. So if you could also share with us, in a similar vein, in terms of how UNITAR is seeing or looking at the current crises that youth are going through, especially given the impact of COVID-19 and the ensuing economic crisis that we're living through.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Well, firstly, let me express sincere appreciation for inviting UNITAR to this important forum. Thank you so much. Let me share with you our thoughts. So very, very quickly about UNITAR. So we are United Nations Institute for Training and Research. So we are a dedicated training arm of the United Nations. So thinking of various challenges that young people are facing these days, how we look at it is that youth have faced with so-called multifaceted challenges. So firstly, looking at economic aspect, as Ruba mentioned, and also gave lots of useful data. Number one is high unemployment. That's number one. And also youth tend to have limited access to the financial banking system, and also limited network and many other challenges directly related to economics. So that's number one. And number two is social aspect, looking at access to education, and also access to high quality education, and also access to public health. Do they have access to those? Unfortunately, many of them have limited access to them. So that's the second dimension, social dimension. And also it's important to look at political dimension, because what we want to achieve is youth will have an opportunity to express their views, getting their voices heard. However, in reality, in many situations, they have limited access to decision-making procedures and the limited space to get their voices heard. And also, do government or public institutions, many institutions, do they have established mechanisms to hear their voices and reflect into policies, regulations? So it is we need to look at to look at systems, whether those systems are in place. And lastly, also cultural dimension. In many situations, there are cultural norms that are hindering effective participation of youth. Like, for example, seniority system. Cultural dimension is also another important aspect for us to look at. So long and short, what we need to look at is to look at the current situation from multi perspectives and make sure that there are holistic mechanisms in place to ensure effective participation of youth. So let me stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mihoko, also for sharing your introductory remarks on the subject. And in the same vein, I think I'd like to now move to Mr. Thomas Kaya from Generation Unlimited. This is a UN initiative. Thomas, we're very glad to have you. And I think you're doing some excellent work when it comes to youth entrepreneurship and youth engagement, among other things. So can you maybe tell us a little bit about what Generation Unlimited is doing in terms of how youth issues are being addressed? And of course, before that, if you can also share your perspectives, just as Dr. Ruba and Ms. Mihoko, on how what you're seeing on the ground in terms of the various crises that youth are facing particularly given the crises that we live through with COVID and financial crises that we're going through now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Acting DG Bukvich, Ahmed, esteemed panelists and guests, Assalamu alaikum. First, before I begin, I'd love to say it's a pleasure to be here with you today. Generation Unlimited are really excited to be with you to talk about the important topic of empowering youth for an uncertain future. To begin my answer, I want to actually talk about Imogen. Imogen's a 16-year-old girl I met in the Makuru informal settlement in Nairobi 2 weeks ago. Imogen finished primary school and has been attending non-formal secondary education classes. She wants to graduate and then take courses to become a digital graphic designer. Now, Imogen recently took a job to afford to pay rent and eat. She now works for a sanitation startup that is providing low-cost toilet blocks in Makuru. And her job is to collect an entrance fee to the toilet from the neighbours. She works 10 hours a day, makes just enough money to pay her rent and eat regular meals. But she doesn't have enough time to complete her non-formal classes, and she definitely doesn't have the money to pay for coding classes if she graduates. Now, I mention Imogen because it's a really good example that showcases the main challenge that youth are facing globally, a struggle to access quality, relevant education and training services that prepare them for the jobs of the future. Now, the challenge youth face is that systems don't integrate to allow them to benefit from the mechanisms that best suit them at the time they need. And my colleague, Ms. Kumamoto, mentioned this, talking about a systemic and holistic approach. That means that generally, youth undertake formal and informal education. So formal through primary and secondary, informal through TVET skills and non-traditional pathways. And it's really difficult to move in between these. And this means that hundreds of millions of children outside formal education can't benefit from its benefits beyond the age of 10 because they can't re-enter. And conversely, children who are in formal education often miss opportunities that they may benefit from the non-formal sector. And what this ends up doing is it creates a mismatch between the skills that young people possess and the skills that are in demand in the labour market, making it really difficult for them to find employment and contribute to the development of their communities. Now, even if the youth benefit from the skilling pathways, there's a lack of support systems around learning to earning paths. So young people face significant barriers like accessing employment opportunities, including work experience, limited access to networks, limited access to funding and resources. And this makes it difficult for them to transition from learning to earning, and they often become trapped in cycles of unemployment and poverty. Now, to talk a little bit about what GenU are doing, we're a partnership that is committed to empowering young people and connecting them to opportunities to shape their future. So our engagement with young people is really grounded in our commitment to place youth at the very centre of our work and prioritise young people's voices and perspectives in decision-making processes. And this is something that my colleagues have already spoken about. We really try to prioritise young people's participation and work to create a more inclusive and youth-centred approach to development that empowers young people to drive innovation and create positive change in their communities. A specific way that we're doing that is engaging with young people through our Young People's Action Team, or the YPAT. The YPAT is a group of nearly 100 young people from diverse backgrounds representing more than 50 countries who are working to shape GenU's strategy and our initiatives in the field. And we've actually set up replicable YPAT models in nearly 80 countries around the world. And what this means is that young people have what we say is a non-tokenistic, because often young people are thrust into engagement spaces but are not really properly engaged with. So we really make this a non-tokenistic engagement where young people are actively involved in decision-making processes and dialogues. And it provides a platform for young people to share their experience, ideas and recommendations with GenU's leadership, but more importantly, with our partners in the public, private sectors and the development sphere as well. I'll pass back to you now, Farooq. Thanks for the question.
Thank you so much, Thomas. And I think that gives us a good list of ideas that we can discuss in more detail as we move forward with the discussion. Now, I want to move to our two other speakers to discuss some country perspectives now, and also to give us, of course, our title of the event can be misconstrued as something being less hopeful, but I think we also have some very good stories coming from our member countries in terms of youth engagement and their participation in civil society, as well as supporting their entrepreneurship efforts, etc. And so I want to move on to now Mr. Abdullah Al Yusuf from TAM in Saudi Arabia. Mr. Abdullah, welcome. It's great to have you with us. Now, you're involved heavily, your company and yourself particularly involved very heavily in the transformation of Saudi Arabia, in the journey of the 2030 vision of Saudi Arabia. So I think we really want to hear from you. Number one, of course, you can also talk about the issues that we're, that our colleagues, other speakers have touched upon. What are some issues that you're seeing, but also how is Saudi Arabia addressing these? How is your company involved? And what are some success stories you can share with us in this direction?
Thank you, Ahmed, and thank you for this opportunity. It's a great pleasure to be with you here today in this panel. To start with, maybe I will try to generalize the discussion to include a new segment of the youth, which is those who are employed and those who also have more opportunities. They're facing challenges, especially post COVID-19. And in my view, I think some of those challenges can be summarized in the very fast dynamic changes that are happening around them. So in our generation, I think one of the very new aspects is you have to learn how to unlearn things and to adapt to changes and quickly try to learn new things in a continuous pace. So, and that adaptability is becoming more present, especially here where we see in Saudi a transformation in every aspect, in all domains, and a very fast progressive developments, which push people to try to unlearn some of the old way of doing things and try to adapt to the new emerging technologies and new emerging thoughts and innovations, and rebuild themselves as youth and regain new skills in a continuous pace, so they become relevant to the industry. And if you stop doing that, in a very few years, you become obsolete in the workforce. So it's true that some of the young people, and we have a very low unemployment rate here yet, that requires the young generation to be all the time on their toes and try to learn new things and let go of the other ones. And the other aspect that we see facing even those who are employed in the region is with the access to the content from around the world, especially post-COVID-19, we can see two emerging trends. One is about being confused in the values between being individualistic and being collective. You want the benefit of being more individualistic and having your own future secured. Yet with the COVID and what happened, you have seen and witnessed clearly what does the collective and the family and the support means. So you're now facing a future with these two hats at the same time and trying to find a balance between the two, which creates a lot of confusing decision making as you move forward. And the second is we're already witnessing it today with the spread of the AI applications and the different, we've seen ChatGPT and its application on. Clearly, we're seeing and we're getting questions from employed people saying, I'm not sure what I will be doing in 1 year from today. Am I gonna be having my job that you're employed me for, or you're gonna replace me? Because we are actually started to use and see some practices for such spread of technologies, especially it got the access to the mass. So with that collectively, in the inner state of the people, you will see the idea that I think humanity lived for quite a long time of living through a struggle at the beginning until you reach that state of stability and autopilot life. It's not going to happen in our generation. You always have to be in your toes. You always have to unlearn and learn. You always have to find a new way to contribute while technology is coming, while all the changes and transformation happening around you. So that's in the first topic we're seeing. When it comes to Saudi and what's happening specifically in this country, I think for the youth to start feel valuable, they need to see and witness and feel the hope. And the Vision 2030 succeeded big time in creating that hope for the future. and also in creating the role models here and there from people who actually contributed, transformed, changes, and made people aspire to be like those leaders. So creating that hope, aspirations, and that hope and aspiration creates the motive and desire for those people to step up and try to contribute and move on in their lives. So that's a quick take on what's happening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdullah. That's really appreciated. And maybe later on during the discussion, we can get into some specific, success stories that you may share in terms of how maybe some of these things that could even be taken to other countries as good practices and examples. So thank you so much. And now I will come, last but not least, to Dr. Tamam Mango from the Crown Prince Foundation in Jordan. Similar questions again to you as well as we start the discussions. How is Crown Prince Foundation? What's Crown Prince Foundation seeing on the ground in terms of the challenges of youth? I mean, there were always issues around unemployment, education, health, etc. But obviously, COVID-19 was a huge disruption. It was a really big setback for all age groups, especially women and youth. So, what would you share with us in terms of what you're seeing on the ground, and how is Crown Prince Foundation supporting the empowerment of youth to become more resilient?
Thank you so much for the opportunity not only to be on this frankly wonderful panel, but also for the ISDP partnering with the Crown Prince Foundation for the Youth Leadership Project, which we're very excited about. Like you mentioned, and like all of the panelists have touched upon, education, mismatch between the education sector and the job market, fluctuating growth rates and ability of the private sector to create jobs are undoubtedly affecting our youth. What we're seeing fundamentally in terms of how youth are being involved in policymaking boils down, I think, to 5 main focus areas. First is we have a real lack of institutional representation of youth. We've also found studies noting a limited desire of policymakers to engage youth in the decision-making process. We found, thirdly, frankly, a lack of legislation that compels youth participation in an explicit manner. And the environment is underprepared to engage youth participation. And here the 5th point kind of breaks out of this, which is it's both a hard and a soft barrier to youth participation. The hard barriers that we see is we have urban and rural youth who both face physical limitations on things like transportation networks that isolate them from opportunities to engage, whether it be jobs or active participation opportunities, and soft, or as my colleague Mihoko mentioned, cultural barriers that may also prevent our youth from accessing these opportunities. At the Crown Prince Foundation, our vision statement is a capable youth for an aspiring Jordan. And really, what we've tried to focus on is how we can marry the skill set of our youth to a country that's growing and expanding. Just to cycle back into what my colleague Abdullah mentioned about Saudi Arabia, an entrepreneur on a panel I was at last week said something, and it struck me that a child today will never have known a world where ChatGPT did not exist, where AI is not a norm for this person. An 18-year-old, actually, their entire life they've had Facebook. And it's sometimes for us, I think, and quite a courageous step to say that youth, younger, maybe less experienced, have perspectives that are new and disruptive, and that we must listen to if we are to make changes that are inclusive, progressive, and in fact, more economically viable for the future. At the foundation, we have 3 main pillars which we work through: leadership, citizenship, and employability and entrepreneurship. Last year across Jordan, we had just over 2 million youth engaged in our activities, which is a number we're quite proud of. Some of our standout national flagships include Haqiq, which is a national leadership program, which we implement in coordination with the Ministry of Education. By next year, every 8th grader in Jordan will be part of this program that really focuses on mindset, confidence, and skills to empower youth to lead within their communities. The Hussein Fellowship Program is a highly selective program that we work within. It's an intensive one-year program aimed at preparing purpose-driven youth with the tools, skills, and knowledge for active participation. And here we ask each of our youth to embark on what we call the challenge, which is a challenge facing Jordan at the national level, which our youth address in group and they present to policymakers. And we've seen quite a few successful adaptations of these presentations. Hussein Technical University is one of our initiatives where we work to bridge the gap between the private sector and academia with industry-based curricular research incubation. The one KPI for the university actually is 100% employability, because we imagine that once you equip a student with the skills required for the workforce, they will either find a job or be able to be self-employed or part of the gig economy. And H2X is an expansion of this, of how to make education more equitable through an online platform, which has stackable courses for degrees. Nahnu is our work with UNICEF, we're very proud of, which focuses on volunteering opportunities across Jordan. Opportunities that allow youth to explore leadership skills as well as give back and kind of bridge the gap that some of our youth feel within a social network. So I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tamam. And I think we're very much in line with your thoughts when it comes to empowering youth, engaging them and enhancing their leadership skills and civic engagement skills. And we hope that this new joint venture that we have embarked on now is going to really have an impact on youth skills when it comes to their leadership, which then they can take and use in the development of their society. So thank you so much. Now I think I'll just take on one of the last points that Dr. Tamam was making in terms of the 100% employability, the KPI that she was sharing about this university. So it will take me back to the ILO, Dr. Ruba. So we'll come back to you in terms of now solutions and how what kind of recommendations and policy guidance would you share from ILO's perspective in terms of improving skilling and employability of youth, and what can countries do, what can institutions like ours, the Islamic Development Bank, do to enhance this entrepreneurship and employability?
Thank you, Ahmed. I think there are several global drivers of change that are underway, and that it will affect the economic, employment, and social and environment outcomes across the region, such as climate change, demographic shifts, globalization, technology changes. And those provide a strong incentive also for countries to create the required environment and for development, and also to invest in reskilling their workforce. And the international communities should give the required support in these areas, particularly in improving the capacity of institutions to deliver quality and relevant education. And also we think that the TVET must also improve links to the labor market, engage the private sector in skills identification and delivery. There is also a need for improving the policy environment. So the issue of the fragmented policy environment and lack of coordinated efforts among key players is an important issue. So also updating the national youth policies are very important and key to ensure that the policies are harmonized and especially with national budgets. Also, there is a need for better information systems, particularly labor market information system, and also information on labor market demand that should be provided for youth to be able to make their own decisions and career choices. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ruba. And now I think many speakers have brought up the point about the mismatch between skills that are being provided through educational institutions and the job market. So I want to come back to Thomas, if you don't mind. Now, Generation Unlimited obviously has various programs that that target this type of these types of mismatches in terms of enhancing entrepreneurship in different countries. So can you share with us some of the initiatives that you have and also advice more for the member countries, for institutions like ourselves, like we said before, what can we do to improve and to undo this mismatch in terms of skilling young people and for them to actually find the right jobs in the market?
Thanks, Farouk. That's a really good question, and I will take a moment to take you up on the offer to share some examples from the GenU work that we do. We place a real emphasis on three main areas. We try and drive youth involvement in employment, entrepreneurship, and social impact. We also look at those with cross-cutting areas across the climate, girls, and digital spaces. And so we try and revolve a lot of our programming around that. What we're seeing at the moment is a lot of popularity in the entrepreneurship space amongst youth. So youth out there really want to learn entrepreneurial skills. And by entrepreneurial skills, we mean here not just skills on how to create and start up a new business, but these are skills that are generally equipping youth to be both entrepreneurs, but also intrapreneurs if they end up going into more formal workplaces. And so a lot of our programming lately has been focused on supporting youth to acquire those skills through the Imagine Ventures program. And this is a program that has been delivered through partners in more than 60 countries around the world now, and that equips youth using a human-centered design approach with the skills they need to identify problems, to develop solutions, and then try and scale those businesses. And that's been a really exciting program that we've got a lot of traction with the countries and the youth that we work with. Now, that's one program amongst many. I'm not going to try and list off all of the programs that we deliver, but I'll pivot now to your next part of the question, which was about the broader lessons that we've learned around engaging with youth and the policy recommendations. And while my colleague Jared spoke more about the policy areas, I think I'll speak a little bit more about how to develop and how to design the policies. I think there are three things that I'd really like to highlight here. Number one, prioritize youth-centered approaches. So I think it's really important that countries prioritize youth-centered approaches that put young people at the center of decision-making. This can include creating safe and supportive environments for young people to share their perspectives. It can involve them in the design and the implementation and even the evaluation of the programs. And it's really about ensuring that young people's voices are heard and valued. And I go back to what I said earlier, and that's about really engaging youth in a non-tokenistic, central way. Second, I'd like to suggest we focus on investing in public, private, and youth partnerships. I think often we focus on the development of programs from a public perspective. Increasingly, we're seeing the private sector crowded in more and more, particularly in the employment space, because we know that they need to be able to advise on what they require amongst their workforces. But again, bringing the youth into that is really important. These sorts of partnerships can help to create more opportunities for young people to access education, training, and job opportunities, and also to help drive innovation and create positive change in communities. And then third, I think I'd recommend embracing human-centered design. This has been a journey that we've been on, and it's really helped to design more effective programs that can better target youth. So countries should embrace human-centered design principles that really prioritize the needs and perspectives of young people. And this again can include designing programs, and that might be to make sure that they're accessible and responsive to the needs of diverse youth populations. Now, one key tool that I'd really like to focus on here is emphasizing user profile. So I had a really interesting conversation with some colleagues in Bangladesh earlier this week, and often we're focusing on the really macro level design principles and these large scale programs because we're trying to reach as many youth as possible. The reality is that there's no such thing as a one size fits all education or skilling or employment program. So throughout the design of these programs, we'd really emphasize thinking quite specifically about the population segments that are trying to be targeted through these interventions, building out these user profiles. So thinking about the youth in urban slums or the youth in rural and regional areas who don't have access to connectivity, being very, very specific about who you're designing for, and then building the design around that user profile to make sure that it really helps to reach that particular persona that you're trying to reach. Back to you, Farooq. Thanks for the question.
Thank you so much, Thomas. If you don't mind, I will ask you one more follow-up. I think it's related to the discussion. We've been talking about this public-private partnership in terms of addressing some of these issues, getting all the various stakeholders on the table. So I know Generation Unlimited, is a partnership that brings together the private sector as well. Can you share with us the role that private sector companies are playing now in the initiatives that you have, and how is that being implemented?
It's a really good question. Again, sorry, I say that for all of your questions, but I think they're really cutting the heart of the operations here. Traditionally, the private sector has been seen more as a funder. And so I've been working in the development sector across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East for 15 odd years. And the real focus has been on trying to get money into fund programs. But increasingly, that's not where the partnership starts and stops. The private sector can play a key role in providing guidance on their requirements in terms of skills and employability, the sorts of things that they need to see in graduates and employees in the future. So really getting quite specific around what are the sort of skills and attributes and knowledge that their employees need. But above and beyond that, the private sector also have a lot of additional benefits they can bring to the table in terms of the skills within them, whether that's market analysts, whether that's project managers, all these kind of skills that can be used to help co-create programs together. And I think that's been a really important evolution for us. Development partners have, as I said, relied on the funds coming in, but increasingly the private sector are more nuanced in the way that they want to engage in this process. And they want to be working hand in hand with development partners and governments to help design projects that they think they can offer a lot of value to. So by bringing together multiple different private sector companies. So we're talking about the private sector companies from as diverse niches as agriculture, manufacturing, telecommunications, ICT, small scale and large scale entrepreneurs, bring them around the table, and picking the minds of those people is a really important way to feed in and create high quality program design. Hopefully that answered the question. Excellent.
Thank you so much, Tom. And now I'll come back to Ms. Mihoko from UNITAR. Again, a similar question in terms of when we go into the solutions now, what would be some of the perspectives and recommendations you would share with us in terms of how now to address these multiple crises, how to build resilience with youth, and what kind of support UNITAR is providing in this direction?
Thank you so much for your question and interventions from other speakers. I found them extremely useful and very encouraging. Thank you. Let me quickly explain to you what UNITAR has been doing and then move to policy recommendations. So as we are a dedicated training arm of the United Nations, we have been conducting various many training to people around the world, particularly marginalized people, including women and the youth. For example, in the previous year, we, thanks to development of digital technologies, that was, COVID time, it was extremely challenging for every one of us, including ourselves. But one benefit we saw was this acceleration of digital use of digital technologies. So thanks to Digitech, we have been able to reach 370,000 learners in the previous year. And many of them were youth. So basically what we do is to give youth knowledge, skills, and network so that they'll be able to become job ready. And the tricky thing is that future job markets, what kind of job will be needed has been constantly changing. So this how to help them get job ready during the time of uncertainty and help them become more resilient are really fundamental to everything we do. A very, very quick example, we have a so-called Youth Ambassador Program. This is to help high school students and university students to become ready for future leaders with negotiation, communication skills, leadership skill. Entrepreneurship program, and it's very exciting to hear that many panelists here are also supporting entrepreneurship. We have this program called Great Ideas Space, where we have been training youth, particularly in difficult situations such as Afghanistan, Iraq, South Sudan, post-conflict countries, so that they could become effective change agent or offering solutions to various problems people, communities, and the countries have been facing. And also another big area is, of course, digital upskilling and reskilling, which have been transforming all our lives. And digital technology will continue. It's central to our life and continue to be integral for our lives. So these are some of the examples. Now, moving to the next part, possible recommendations to policy level solutions. I would like to come back a little bit to my previous intervention. So I have emphasized that when we try to address or support youth to become effective change agent, it is important for us to adopt holistic approach. So looking at multiple dimensions. So looking at social aspect now, of course, ensuring or accelerating high quality access to high quality education and training. And it is important for us to make sure that knowledge skills we are offering are tailored to future job market. And also economic aspect, and of course, boost employability for youth. That is extremely important. And we looking at overall trends. Of course, climate change is a big topic. So helping them get green jobs, that's an important aspect. And also digital technologies. We can easily imagine in the future there will be more and more job opportunities related to digital technology. So helping them get ready in this field. And also looking at policy level, we want to make sure that there are enabling environments to support them and also incentivize youth to gain these skill sets. And also supply side as well for private companies, for example, helping them to offer incentives to encourage them to engage more youth. And also political dimension as well. It is extremely important to set in place systems, mechanisms to engage youth more effectively into decision-making procedures, multi-stakeholder consultation, and also facilitate exchanges of knowledge and information across generations would be extremely helpful. And lastly, digital technology is one. And with these technologies, youth are so tech savvy, so they will become effective problem solvers and change agent. So long and short, it needs to be whole society approach, not piecemeal approach, but comprehensive holistic approach. It's going to be critical. Thank you. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mihoko. And in this second round, I'll go back to Mr. Abdullah Al Yusuf. Mr. Abdullah, I think when we look at the entrepreneurship space in Saudi Arabia, I think we can see that, especially in the last few years, there's been this extremely vibrant space for young people to access financing, to establish their businesses, etc. What can you share with us about this journey of young people in Saudi Arabia? How has TAM been involved in this process? What are some best practices you can share with us, which can also be policy level, recommendations that other countries can pick up?
Great. So maybe I will mention some of the programs we have been involved in, and others that we're not, but it's part of the ecosystem. So we have developed multiple programs with multiple entities in the governments in which we're excuse me, in which we, as mentioned before, sometimes the very large, big, complex solutions does not really cater for the specific contextual need. And here comes the ability to design a youth-centric or human-centric solutions to start from where people are and then try to upskill and bridge that gap upwards. So we have worked with multiple organizations to design a gamified solutions in which the youth go through a journey of challenges or missions in which in that journey they gain new skills, they solve real life problems, and they build their entrepreneurial skills indirectly through these different programs where prizes and incentives are embedded in the journey. So after 5 or 6 stages, a very large number of people gain the basic fundamental of entrepreneurship, the basic mindset of an entrepreneur who look for a solution and envision a better future and seek to try and build for that future. And they feel the belonging because they get the network to get to know like-minded people who share the same passion and get the same interest. And we succeeded in building such a blended version of the program that brings the online and the offline together in one journey in multiple sectors. So we have done it in the cultural sector, in the tourism sector, in the general entrepreneurship sector, health sector, and on. So we have some programs that is sectorial and based on certain sectors where the challenges are identified ahead of time, the opportunities identified ahead of time for those entrepreneurs, and once, or potential entrepreneurs, and once they have a concept that can be tested, we actually go to the big private sectors and large corporations and ask them to give those people an opportunity to test and test the solutions in real life situations and see the benefits of that. Because for entrepreneurs, one factor is the mindset and the skills, and we're getting it from that program. And the second factor is to gain an access and a feeling to a real life situations and cases and real customers and people. We're doing that through partnerships. And third is the access to capital, in which we're bringing sometimes prizes and funds and on to the table. And honestly, we learned that one of the very important aspects is the one I mentioned, which is giving the youth access to an established environment in which they can identify a real life problems and define a real life solutions and have the opportunity to test it. And we have seen a lot of accelerators, a lot of programs that focus so much into the training and doesn't give much into this access to these opportunities. And we have run one of the program in which entrepreneurs comes from around the world actually, and try to test their solutions in Saudi and see the benefits of that and try to get credentials with some of the global brands in which they tested their solution with. which eventually give them the trust and the credibility to go out to the market and venture their solutions. So that actually helped a lot in building the momentum of thousands of entrepreneurs, in which they gain the skills, the access, the capital to try and test and venture into the market. So that's that's one aspect. In addition to it, in Saudi, there has been two programs which I think it's a very effective one. One is the Saudi venture capital company, which this company has a big fund, and it co-match with any VCs or with any impact VCs as well, their funds. So if they're putting a 50%, this company comes and puts and ship in another 50%. And now they're going into also the early stages of this startups. And that actually boosted the VC landscape in Saudi big time. And we have seen it, we have felt it, and we have witnessed the impact of such solutions, in which it does not really go into the operational aspect of it. It does stands only on enabling the key player in the region to do their jobs as VCs and as funding programs. So that's the second aspect. The third one, coming back to the discussion we had, the panelists shared, one of the practices we have developed called the policy labs, in which it puts the beneficiary in the center of the policy developments, and it starts by identifying the problems from their perspectives. A lot of time we start from our own perspective of the problem, not from the perspective of the beneficiary themselves. And those kind of policy labs actually really effective in identifying a very relevant challenges and designing solutions that really matter and so custom-made for such a problem. And we have seen such policy labs come up with interventional, innovative policies using system dynamic, human-centered design, and so many different tools, behavior economics and on, to really tap into these needs and put the youth in the center of policy developments in an effective way. So that's in a nutshell about what's happening.
Thank you so much. Those are excellent programs that you've shared with us. So I think one of the things that you mentioned last in terms of the policy labs and how the beneficiaries are sort of being they're being in the center of these design stages in these policy labs. I think it goes back to what Tom was saying and what other speakers have also said in terms of human-centric design. So I think it's really good to hear that already in terms of the policy recommendations, Saudi Arabia already has some success stories, and these are great to share even with our audience and with other member countries as the Islamic Development Bank. So now I think we do have a couple of youth representatives who joined us. They're also the winners of our first challenge call of the Green Skills Accelerator that we have done together with the ILO. Mr. Shahab and Said Muntasser are with us, and I think one of you were going to come online. So I think let's invite Mr. Said Muntasser, if you're with us. Can you also share with us your perspectives, in terms of what were some of the challenges that you faced? How do you see youth entrepreneurship from your perspective? What can we do as development institutions to support those processes?
Right. Thank you so much, and assalamu alaikum, everyone. So I think the main challenge that we face, particularly in South Asian context, is that the skills that are required, there's a skill demand and supply of skills and demand gap match. But more than that, there is a the skills that are being developed, like for the technical skills, it's not being recognized properly. The certification is not recognized properly. So the industries that are hiring, they're hiring people from out of the gate because they're at a policy level, at a systematic level, there is no policy that only the youth that are skilled should be hired, or the youth that are skilled should be sent outside. So that ecosystem is not there. So that's why, when we were trying to build newer skills and the the anxiety among the youth was that what will they do with that skill? Whether that skill is recognized, whether they will get jobs with that skill. So what we try to do is that work with the industry, make sure that the industry recognize the skills and try to ensure that there is a kind of apprenticeship process and work with the government that let us make this more systematic so that there is apprenticeship and then there is job. So that's something that we are trying to work at an employment level. And second, on the entrepreneurship level, see in countries like Bangladesh or in South Asia, climate crisis is the major crisis that we are facing. There are incredibly resource scarcity, there are water problems, but these are problems, but these are also opportunities that youth can utilize to build new products and services at a grassroots level, at the community level. But there are three important things that are required. There's business there's money to be made in the table, but there is lack of investments because those the financing required is not there. The instrumentation is not. Banks are not going to invest in there. The second is that the skills are not there. The kind of skills that are required to build that type of business. So, for example, if we want to build a solar ponds and filter, it's a very simple technology, but the skills are not there. It's a very simple technology also to maintain it. But just because the skills are not there, it's not being marketed properly. And the third thing is that the ecosystem is also not there. I think the market needs to be shaped. The youth needs to there should be some sort of onboarding process from the government that how they can undertake this process. They get skill and how they can get financing. So there is a lot of confusion that what they will do. So yeah, so that's something that on a broader level, I try to share what challenges that we are facing.
Thank you.
What we can do. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sayyid Muntasser. And let me give you a 30-second opportunity. Why don't you tell us also about the solution that you developed, which won this award last year? So it's great that you shared with us these overall recommendations, but you're also one of the people who are finding solutions for these things. So please share with us in the next 30 seconds.
Of course. So what we have done is we have with the Bangladesh Technical Education Board, solar system, the solar electricity is something that is really taking up in Bangladesh. But most of the solar panels across, particularly in the grassroots level, they are not being maintained properly. So that's why, and another big problem is that these solar panels, they have a 25-year lifetime. There were about 6 million panels that has been installed. So much of it will be needs to be decommissioned. But it's going to be a huge environmental hazard. We're trying to solve one problem and it's going to create another problem. So what we have tried to do is to develop a skills training mechanism so that these solar panels can be maintained properly and also can be decommissioned. And it is recognized by the Bangladesh Technical Education Board. So that certification has a value. We are also working with the private sector so that the jobs that are being generated in the solar panel industry, the youth can access it. That's on and just lastly on the entrepreneurship is that we are trying to give small grants on finding new ways how the solar panel, new ways of using the solar panels in auto e-bikes and others, so that new businesses can be generated. Yeah, that's in summary. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sayyid Muntasser. Now, just to also be observant of the time, I think we'll go on to our next item, which was to make our joint announcement with the ILO on the second challenge call. I think, Majda, are you here with us? I will start off and then Majda from ILO will continue. Ishraq, if you could also share the slides, please. So colleagues, we're and esteemed speakers, young people watching us online, we do have an announcement to make. The ISDB ILO Youth Green Skills Accelerated Challenge call will be coming up on 25th May. So watch out for this on our websites. Just to share with you very quick information, the Green Skills Accelerated Challenge strives to assist young people by finding innovative solutions. Last year, the ISDB ILO Youth Green Skills Accelerated Challenge call was launched to encourage young people to participate in a just transition towards a green economy. Today, we're happy to announce that this year, the ISDB and the ILO are renewing the experience of launching a new challenge on the 25th of May, 2023. This year's challenge call objective is to focus on the post-crisis situations and find greener skilling solutions to build back better and greener. The ISDB and the ILO strongly believe we will move towards a sustainable and better world by creating skilling programs with greener solutions. And now Majda will come online and she will also share with us more details on how people can apply for this challenge call and what will be the modalities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Farouk. So the objective of this year, the 2023 ISDB ILO Challenge Call, is to identify, incubate, test, but also disseminate innovative solutions from nonprofit education and training providers, so included TVET institutions. So those institutions that support training processes for young people, 15 to 35 years old, living in the ISDB ILO common member states, and the solution needs to be specifically tailored for post-crisis situations with the competencies required for one, re-entering education or the labor market, living in peaceful coexistence with their communities, building back greener in their communities, and building their resilience for the next possible, hopefully not, crisis. We have shared a link with you in the slide, and we will share it as well in the site. So the 25th of May, the participant guidelines and more details on how to apply will be shared in that link. We have an English and also an Arabic version. Second slide, please. Also, in terms of winning solutions, the winning teams, the 3 winning teams, will receive financial support. The top 3 ideas will receive 100K in monetary assistance to turn that proposal into reality, a total of 100K. But also the winning organization will receive technical support and guidance from ILO skill specialists for 6 months to develop their ideas into real-life prototypes that are ready for implementation. But also the winners and finalists will receive access to the ILO Skills Innovation Network, tools and tools like such as boot camps and remote mentoring, but also the country offices of the ILO that are everywhere in the different ISDB ILO member states, common member states. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Majda. And now, in the interest of time, we do have some questions that our audience has asked in the Q&A box, and many of them actually have been answered by our speakers. There are a couple of items that maybe I can quickly also address, as we have done some work in that area. So, for example, one of our colleagues asked, please discuss unemployment challenges facing South Asian countries. So I think broadly speaking, our speakers have covered some of these items. I do want to invite our audience to also go to our publications page. The ISDB, the Women and Youth Empowerment team here has worked on some studies, entrepreneurship ecosystem studies together with the UNDP. And we have looked into countries like Indonesia, Bangladesh. We're currently finishing Maldives and Pakistan. And these are on our website. We have addressed, in fact, we have specifically addressed this question, I guess, through those studies looking at some South Asian countries in terms of what are the, what's the ecosystem and what are some challenges as well as some recommendations. Also, there's been a couple of specific questions on our young professionals program. So I think just to inform the audience, this program is alive, and We are making some changes to it, so do watch for announcements on taking the next cohort of young professionals to the bank. That should be announced on our website as well, so people can follow that directly. Now, other questions have been answered, so in the interest of time, I will now invite our Vice President of Operations, Dr. Mansour Mukhtar, to close our event. Again, a big thank you to all of our speakers, really great recommendations and great discussions. And we'll have the closing remarks from Dr. Mansour. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, distinguished speakers, guests, and youth from our member countries. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. I'm honored to deliver the closing remarks at this event. And first and foremost, we at the Islamic Development Bank are delighted to have hosted you during today's Youth Development Forum, the 11th in the series since inception. And on behalf of ISDB senior management and colleagues, I would like to thank our esteemed speakers and guests who joined us from around the globe to share insights, perspectives, and experiences. It has indeed been a productive time with fruitful discussions focusing on the challenges and opportunities facing young people today, and what we can do individually and collectively to craft a more resilient and hopeful future for them. These are challenging times indeed. The COVID-19 pandemic, various ongoing conflicts around the world, climate change-related disasters, an accentuated economic, financial, and debt crisis being experienced around the world have cumulatively impacted on the lives and livelihoods of people, both the old and the young, in developed as well as developing countries. In parallel, we are living in times during which tremendous advancements in science and technology and innovation are being recorded. Advances that provide opportunities to build more inclusive and resilient societies with better opportunities for everyone. To address these challenges and capitalize on new opportunities, partnering with young people, the young generation, is essential. Indeed, considering that the entire notion of sustainable development is built upon the premise of building today for a better tomorrow, who better to build a partnership now than with young people who will shape the future? A meaningful partnership with youth will yield more socially inclusive decisions and policies for the common good. It would also allow youth to contribute their skills and capabilities to make an immediate impact to help realize society's collective future. In this regard, today's forum has provided a useful platform, bringing together policymakers, development practitioners, and the youth to discuss issues, challenges, and opportunities related to youth development. As part of the outcome of this forum, we expect new partnerships to be forged. We expect new ideas, insights, and perspectives to be developed and nurtured. And we expect refined and scaled up interventions to be developed to empower the youth and help them face their challenges with resilience. In turn, we also expect our youth to continue to remain engaged and to support the socio-economic development of their communities and countries through their innovative ideas, positive energy, passion, and enthusiasm. I would like to conclude by thanking the organizing team of this event for their efforts in preparing this platform, which has enabled us to hold today's vital discussions. No doubt, the fruitful deliberations held today will help advance our efforts to empower the youth and help us further strengthen and align our efforts towards supporting the attainment of sustainable development goals in our member countries. Thank you and God bless. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mansour. And before everybody signs off, please we invite everyone to turn on your cameras whoever is with us will take a quick photo to commemorate this event. Thank you so much. Ishraq, it's your call whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Brother Ahmed. Dear panelists, thank you very much. Could you please, can we have a smile, please? On the count of 3, we'll take a group photo. So, Sister Mona, please adjust your camera. We cannot see your photo.
Mona, if you can adjust yourself, please, the camera. Okay.
No problem. So at the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate your valuable time, and we'll be in touch. As we said, we look forward to enhanced partnerships. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank
Have
you
a
very
great
much.
day.
Thank you. Bye.